Welcome to Let's Be Real 100%, where we are 100% real about life. We know that life happens and we are here to talk about it. And when I say we, I'm talking about it's all God and little old me. Join us as we jump into our topic today. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real. This journey has been absolutely amazing. I've learned so many stories. Just learning of the strength of many women, men, and people that are living around the world. It's been amazing. Our next journey is with Miss Susan Snow. Her journey is about resilience and strength with her family and the things that they went through. And I hope that you enjoy this conversation, and we will come back and talk to you soon. Welcome to Let's Be Real. My name is Sean. This podcast is based off, journeys and testimonials and, being an overcomer. And I'm definitely appreciative that you took out the time to talk to me today.
Well,
Um,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I usually like to start off with the icebreaker. So it's just like a pretty much a random question out of the blue.
That's not
And
the
just to
the
bring
animal one, is it? Because I've been thinking about that one.
Oh no, it's definitely not the animal one because I was like, I did that one and I was like, you know what? I can't even think of an animal. Like I don't even know. Let me change that up a little bit. So I was
Thank
like,
you.
let
I
me.
appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're definitely welcome because I still don't even know what kind of animal. I'll be one tired animal right now if I could think of one. Um. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to think. I had it right here on my thing. Okay. Who? No, I'm not gonna do that one either. I'm gonna leave that one alone. What? If you could try any food, what would it be?
If I could try any food, what would it
Mm,
be?
Right. It's like from a different, I guess a different country style food. What would it be?
Oh my goodness. I think I would like to try something from the Caribbean.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds nice because I think they have like a whole lot of variety of things
Lots
that you
of
can try.
flavors, lots of,
Yes,
yeah, they use a lot
definitely.
of different type of spices. So,
Definitely, and I like spice, so I know that's what they usually do. So yeah, that's what I usually like to start off with, just to break the ice and whatnot.
okay.
You told me a little bit about yourself via messages, and I also was strolling through most of your posts and stuff, and I know you talk a lot about your dad and a lot of things that happened with that your book coming out and everything. So before we get into all that, you can tell me, I guess, and then the people about more about yourself.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm a mom of three adult children.
That says a lot.
They still keep me on my toes.
Yes.
One of my middle son is getting married in October, so I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Um, Gosh, I've been a realtor for 13 years
Okay.
and a hairdresser for 31, so I'm kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I can see. I know who I need to call now.
So, yeah, I mean, I've been with my husband for 38 years,
Amazing.
and there was a divorce in the middle of that. But,
Right.
you know, marriage is not an easy thing and it's
It's
work.
not.
So,
It's definitely not.
but yeah, he's my best friend, and we have an amazing relationship now, and we've been
Awesome.
through a lot together. He was actually there with me when my dad was killed.
Right. That's amazing.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's definitely you. Definitely, I'm sure you needed like that strong support from him, especially when that happened.
I did. And, actually, because he was 19 years old at the time, um, Most boys would have said, bye-bye.
Right. Right.
This is too much. I can't handle it. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He's stuck around, and I'm so grateful that he did because yeah, he was the one thing that kept me on this earth for a very long
Yes.
time.
And it's still keeping you because you're still here. Thank
Oh,
God. Thanks
oh
be
yeah,
to God.
absolutely. Yep, yep.
That's amazing. So you say you've been married for 39 years?
Well, we've been together for 38 years, but we've been married for 31 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, what advice would you give to I'll say, one that's wanting to get married or one that has been married? You know, what kind of advice would you give that person?
Don't ever, ever, ever take each other for granted.
Mm,
And don't ever try to change somebody because as you get older, in your journey together, you know, there's gonna be times where you feel like you're growing apart.
right.
However, if you keep communication open and you don't take each other for granted, you can get through just about anything. So, I mean, for us, we had to learn that the hard way. And now, communication is the most important thing.
Yes.
Um, but he also understands me to my core. So, because I have allowed him to come into my world, I think in the beginning, we let people in the relationship when it's new
Mm-hmm.
get to know us a little bit, but we still hold something back.
Right.
And
Right.
in order to have a long term, amazing life together, you have to be able to be vulnerable with one another and let each other know, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, you know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
not holding anything back, and just being honest with each other. So,
Yes, that definitely says a lot. Yes, communication does go a long way on both ends, especially in the beginning, because you're still dating, you're still courting, you're still getting to know each other. And I feel like even when I had got married, our courtship before marriage was amazing, but after marriage, it like kind of dwindled a little bit, and I've learned it was like you still have to continue to communicate. You still have to keep that same fire you had
mm-hmm.
while you were dating and still court each other, date each other, love each other, like each other,
Yep.
continuously throughout the marriage. Because I've been married 11, 12 years now almost.
Okay.
I had to think about it. Yeah, so like, it's been, it's definitely been a journey, but it's definitely been a well worth it journey as well. Um, so yeah, marriages, it's definitely some work. You have to put the work in for sure for both of
Absolutely.
you all. So, um, of course, I know a lot of. I guess I would say, how was your journey? Growing up, and then, with your dad before everything happened.
You know, with my dad, I I had a really great relationship with my dad. He was my best friend. And it was a little bit um, challenging at times because with him being a cop,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I heard a lot of negative talk about law enforcement
Mm-hmm.
growing up, um, you know, derogatory names
Right.
and whatnot.
Right.
Um, you know, and there were times where I was like, I would find myself getting embarrassed. Guys didn't really want to date me because my dad was a cop.
It could be scary,
Yeah,
like, because
yeah.
he
And
got all the information on this dude, like, that you're dating, like he can look up anything.
exactly. So it was challenging at times and uh funny little story. When I was in elementary school, I was bused up to another area in Southern California, and that particular city is where my dad's department was, where uh,
His precinct
his
was.
his precinct
Mm-hmm.
was. And so he was always the one that got, that had me, picked me up for different appointments, doctors, dentists, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
However, he drove a narc car, and
Wow.
so, kids would see me getting picked up in this undercover car,
Right.
and then, the rumors would start flying.
Wow.
And people would be like, oh, she got busted for drugs, or
Right.
whatever, she got arrested or whatever. And then I'd have to come back to school and explain myself, like, nope, that was just my dad. I had a dentist appointment.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
get busted for drugs. I didn't, so um but that was a little embarrassing, but at the same time, I thought it was kind of comical, even back
Yeah.
then I thought it was kind
Exactly.
of funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, especially, it's not like I'm not gonna say it's not a real police car, but it's like literally undercover. Like I can only imagine him
Yeah.
coming in fully suited up, belt and everything, like just like, can I get Mrs. Snow to come out the door? Like,
Yeah.
no, that's not. That's my
Yeah.
dad. Thank you.
Exactly. So it was a little embarrassing, but I got over it pretty quick.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Like, my oldest son now, he of course he graduated last year, so he wants to go into the law enforcement thing, and I was like, it's kind of
Yeah, I
can
know.
be a little nervous, dealing with,
Yes, absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
he wants to. Like, he went like the school that he went to. They had like those classes that you can take with law enforcement and
Uh-huh.
forensic files and stuff like that, and he did all of that, and
Oh, that's
so he's
awesome.
still interested into it. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's yeah. So I'm sure your dad has told you many, many, many stories
Oh gosh, yeah.
about being in the police force. So
Oh, absolutely. And then you just recently I've been speaking, and I spoke back in July to some retired LAPD,
hmm
and I got to hear some really cool stories about my dad, and kind of their interactions, um and it was really neat to hear these stories about him, and how much he was loved, and how much he was respected, as as a detective, and so it was just really an honor for me to listen and hear these stories about my dad.
right, like what was like one of the most interesting stories that you heard that really probably like surprised you or shocked you in a way?
I think the craziest thing was, I I had heard stories about my dad prior to getting into LAPD,
hmm
and I was just told that he turned down a West Point, like somebody wanted him to be an instructor or something at West Point.
hmm
And that's like really prestigious, but he felt like his calling was law enforcement and not military based. So he joined the LAPD and went through training and everything. And so just hearing that, I was like, wow, I had no idea about that, about my dad. And I also heard stories about how he really loved to teach, which is
hmm
really funny because that's me. Um, I love I love to mentor, I love to
hmm
teach, I love to speak, and he was just like that. So I was like, well, that's where that comes from.
Yeah, that apple didn't fall too far from that tree, real
Yeah.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always say that I'm my father's daughter. So
Yes, you are daddy's child. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And then to have all those talents that you have and all the hats that you wear, I can only imagine that's one of the places, of course, where you learned that from to be um, and to have the big heart that he had, because obviously if he loved to serve and
Yes.
to help people, I'm sure he had the biggest heart that anybody could have, to choose a career, that he chose as a detective.
Yeah.
So that's really good to know. Um, so, other than, I guess, your, you and your dad or whatnot, like, are there any other things that you had to like truly overcome, um, as you personally, that you would like to share?
Oh my goodness. In regards to my dad's death, overcoming that or anything else over and
And
above that?
over and above that.
Oh boy. Strap yourself in, Sean.
I'm ready. I
So
mean, whatever you're willing to share, I'm ready. I got my seatbelt on and everything.
yeah, well, when I was in middle school, actually, when I was end of elementary school into middle school, my parents, my mom was actually she worked at a home for wayward girls, like a convent,
Okay.
and she befriended a young lady there who was a teenager and had been through hell. Um, Beautiful, stunning girl. And she was transferred out of that particular facility into another one and was not doing well at this other facility.
Hmm.
There was some abuse happening. And so she talked to my mom, and my mom talked to my dad for a long time. And they decided to be foster parents to her.
Oh, amazing.
So I did not have any siblings at that time. So she was the only closest thing to a sibling that I had.
Wow.
But she grew up in a totally different situation and, very broken home and
Right.
got into drugs and prostitution and, like a lot of things, right?
Right.
And so she had different life experience than I did. And but she was just stunning and I just wanted to be just like her, and all I could see was this beautiful girl and she just seemed cool to me.
Right.
And when I was in middle school, about 2.5 years prior to my dad's death, she was murdered as well.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Sorry to
she,
hear that.
yeah, she couldn't handle the family life. It was too different for her. And
Right.
so she ran away and she got involved with a guy who got her involved with drugs again. And this time dealing them. And so she was killed. We feel she was killed for in retaliation.
Right.
Um, so I had that experience, and I didn't really. I think my parents spent a lot of times like hiding it from me, and
Hmm.
by this time I did have a sibling. I had my younger brother, um, but they like left us behind and went. She was killed up in San Francisco. So they flew up to San Francisco to deal with
Hmm.
everything and left my brother and I with some family friends. And so
Okay.
I really never got a chance to mourn her, nor did I know how to mourn her.
Right.
And then, and then here we are 2.5 years later, I'm dealing with the death of my dad. So
Wow.
with no tools, like no way to deal with that, and
So, do you believe that there are tools that you can use in
oh
the situation like that, or?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of it too is that, as a child, you obviously need as much support as possible by the
Right.
adults.
Right. Right. Right.
um and unfortunately in my dad's situation, my mom and I, we had a we had a very complicated relationship prior to my dad's death, and it just intensified and became more fractured afterwards. Unfortunately, my dad was killed in front of my 6-year-old brother, and so all of the attention was obviously on him and my mom,
Right.
and I got kind of pushed aside. Even the media didn't realize there was a teenage daughter for at least a couple of days. And then the night my dad was killed, I mean, I don't know if you know the full story, but um, my dad was testifying that day on a case. It was his case.
Mhm.
And he was testifying, and the guy that was involved was out on bail. And so it gave him an opportunity
Right.
to go to my
Wow.
brother's school and kill my dad. And my dad saved my brother's life. That was his last act on earth. And then my mom and I were called to the school, not knowing everything that went on, and witnessed his body and the aftermath.
Right. I think I had read a part of that on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
page, but I didn't know the full story. I guess coming up to that, like
Yeah.
the testimonials and stuff like that. I
Yep.
didn't get that. So
Yeah.
that's
So it was a lot. It was a lot for a kid to handle. I was 17 at the time. And again, no tools.
right.
And, my mom had made the choice to, instead of keeping me with the family unit between my mom and my brother and
Mhm.
she chose to send me with a neighbor. And so I spent that night like in shock, all the things you go through when you've been
Right.
traumatized, the
Yeah.
shock and the
The
grief
anger,
and
the
the
grief, the
anger,
bitterness. Yeah.
all of it,
Yeah.
by myself with the neighbor. Um, and it just it kind of started the mindset that I was not important.
Right.
And that kind of followed me for a very long time in my life. Um,
So in your mindset, in that, like, how did, like, in your journey of coming out of that, like, how did that process go?
well, it was interesting because I tell this story all the time. It just shocks people. So back then, it was the 80s,
Hmm.
and there was no talk of PTSD or
Right.
mental health or anything. There was no real support system for teenagers or anything like that. So I really had to figure things out on my own, um, which wasn't a whole lot. I
Right.
had all of these feelings, and I went through, the initial fogginess, and your
Hmm.
denial, and my sadness. It was just deep, and it was dark, and I just wanted to be and longed to be with my dad in the place that he was,
Right.
and couldn't figure out how to get out of this. Um, and then LAPD decided that we needed to go into therapy individually.
Hmm.
So I had no idea about a therapist, didn't know what therapy was, didn't know how to, um, be vulnerable. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
be
Ex-
transparent.
right. Express your feelings and your
Yeah,
emotions.
didn't know
Yeah.
how to express myself. And I spent an entire year with this man, and the only questions he asked me about was my relationship with my mother and my brother, school, and my boyfriend.
Mhm.
He never dove, he never asked, he never did anything of the sort that would allow me and give me a safe space to tell him what was actually going on in my head.
Right.
And after a year of seeing him, he looked at me and he said, you are a well rounded young lady. You're very strong. And I think you'll be fine for the rest of your life. I don't need to
Oh
see
my.
you anymore.
Oh wow. For as a teenager, you tell them
Yeah,
that?
And I walked away and I was like, wait, I'm a mess. Like, what are you
Right.
talking about? Like, what do you mean you can't see me anymore? You don't want to see me? Like, I am broken. And so
Right.
I just felt like, okay, well, I guess I'm just nuts and I've cracked and this is just who I am and how I am. And I'm just going to have to deal with this.
Right.
And so I felt defeated and I was completely unsure of myself. I was insecure. I mean, just so many things. And it took me 14 years to really start my healing journey. And how that happened was I was married. I had 2 children now. I had moved to Colorado. It was 1999 and Columbine happened. And at the time I was a hairdresser and I was working in a salon and I had just put my client under the dryer and went into the back room and we had this tiny little TV and I turned it on and the news flash popped up. And I started to watch what was going on at the school and I had a visceral reaction. Like I started having
Flashbacks. I can only imagine.
flashbacks.
Yeah.
I was anxious. I turned white. I was sweating. I mean, my coworker came up to me and nobody knew my story.
Right.
And she was like, "Oh my gosh, do you have a kid there? Are
Right.
you like trying to figure out what was going on with me?" And I couldn't even figure out what was going on with me.
Yeah.
So I started to have all of those old feelings come back, all of them.
Right.
And my husband recognized it and he stopped me at the door one day and he said, "You have 2 choices. You can either go get help or I'm putting you in a hospital."
Wow.
And so I chose to go get help and I went to the doctor immediately and they put me on antidepressants because that's what they do.
Right. Exactly.
And then the next thing he said to me was, "And you're going to have to go see a therapist." And I was like,
Why
"Again?
am I going through? Yeah, like they didn't help me the first time. Like, why would I go again?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Right.
I'm broken. Like clearly I could not be fixed
Right.
before."
Right.
So I did. I went and saw this female therapist and I sat in her office for 15 minutes and gave her a snippet of my life. And she looked at me and she said, "Susan, everything you've been through since you were 17 years old is completely normal. And
You lied to me.
you have PTSD." And I looked at her and I said, "How can I have PTSD? I'm not in the military and
Right.
I didn't go to war." And she said, "Oh my," she said, "You know what?" She said, "Anyone who has gone through a traumatic experience can experience PTSD."
Right.
And she explained to me that PTSD, it leads to, it's not something you can get rid of. It's something you can manage.
Wow.
And it was like the sky opened up and rainbows shot out because I finally had answers.
Right.
And I finally was able to put a map together on how to address the anxiety, the depression, and so we started off with something super simple, which was journaling.
Yes. Yes.
And I had no idea about journaling and I thought, "Oh, it's just me writing, things on a paper or whatever."
Right.
But she explained to me, she said, "Journaling can come in different forms.
Right.
So you can do it in art, you can do it in music, you can
Wow.
do it writing. However it is that you have to get the things out of your head
Right.
out."
Wow.
this is journaling, and it was powerful. It was my first experience of really kind of taking back my power from my trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
And how old were you then when you started this journey?
I was 30.
Okay, so from 17 to 30, you were going through this whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, I was just a little I was just a little under 30. So, yeah, I just, all those years I was just struggling with all of these things that would pop up, because throughout the years I had a lot of triggers.
Right.
That would happen, and I would have different reactions to those triggers. And so, but I didn't even know what a trigger was.
Right.
Back then.
Because you didn't have that support or the first therapist to explain to you what was happening. Because all he said was, you're going to deal with this for the rest of your life. And that's what you took with you. Like, okay, well, I guess that's who I am. This is what I'm going to be. So it is what it is. And just deal with it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Exactly. So that led me to, all the different modalities. I did some talk therapy, but I think, the things that give you tools. So I did things like EMDR. I learned some tapping techniques. And there's so many cognitive therapies out there.
It is.
There really is. But there's no one size fits all. I talk about that all the time. There is not one size fits all. You find out what works best for you.
Yes.
And because here's the thing, if you don't do the therapies that are working best for you, the healing does not happen.
Right. Yeah, that's like trying to put a broken bone in a cast not lined up the way it's supposed to.
Right.
It's gonna grow the wrong way. It's not gonna heal the way it's supposed to. So yeah, that's definitely one. Because I know I had when I had started going to therapy, because they put me on the antidepressants and everything, due to everything that I had went through, and he was showing me different, like you said, different types of ways to see which one fit for me. And writing was mine, because my brain was so full of things, and if I just let it out in writing, and in music as well, let my emotions out in those, I felt so much better with that. But then he also told me, I would wear like wristbands. I know people do like the rubber band thing. I couldn't do it. It was too painful. So
no snapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I would just do the regular regular bracelets, and I would just twiddle along with it, or take the little beads and I would roll the beads around, just to keep the nerve down, or whatever it was. So it was a lot of things, like you said. It's a lot of ways to
lot of ways to ground yourself. Yes. Yep. To get back into a better headspace, for sure.
Indeed. That's good to know, because a lot of people who go through therapy or go through different things, they really don't know ways to release those things. So yeah, it's good to know.
Well, and I still think there's a lot of I think there's still a lot of feeling out there, like some people still don't understand that the reactions that they're having, the things that they're going through with anxiety or whatever it is PTSD. Right. Because there still is that, well, I'm not a first responder, I'm not military, I'm not, and so and that's something that I talk about when I speak to people, is that that is so common, it is common. And what I didn't understand is that PTSD can morph into different things. So, people can actually have their brain split, like it fractures. It literally when you have PTSD, your brain has been injured. It's been injured from the trauma.
Yes.
And so, people can have different things like bipolar disorder or anxiety disorders or,
panic attacks and all those things.
depression,
Yes.
DID, and having different personalities. And, that's all things that can stem from PTSD. And so I think the word or, the messages that I'm trying to get out is that this can happen to anyone who has gone through a traumatic experience in their life. And it doesn't matter what it is, right?
Right.
So, and everybody's trauma is different,
Yes.
So, but that's a really important point that I make all the time, is that these are the things that can happen.
Yes, they can. And if it's not spoken of, like if you don't speak about it or try to get the help that you need, things can get, of course, worse than what it is. So it's good to talk about it.
Yep, absolutely. And it affects every part of your life.
Oh, yeah.
It affects your parenting skills. It affects your relationships with your spouses, with your friends, with your work, everything. Right. And so it's really important to be able to take care of yourself first and foremost.
Yes.
And I talk to women who have gone through, very traumatic experiences, and they just shuffle it off and dive into just being a mom. And what I remind them is that you can do that and hide in the momhood all you want, but this thing is going to come rearing its head one day.
Yes. Because it could be one thing that the child does, or one thing that something does that, like you said, like triggers that one thing, and it just gonna blow up in that person's face, and you're gonna be like, okay, where did that come from? What happened?
Exactly. And so, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people.
Yes.
And so, and I think that's an important point to make, is that you have to take care of yourself in order to help other people. And so, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I waited till I was 50 years old to write my book, because
that's gonna be my next question. Like, how did you get into the book thing? How did you get the process of getting into your book?
I think part of it was that, obviously, it was cathartic for me. It took me 4.5 years to write it. And the reason it took me 4.5 years is because I really had to dive, and I really had to be vulnerable, and I had to tell my full truth. And, I knew part of my fear was that in telling my truth, I was going to make other people in my life not happy with me.
Yes. I can agree with that one.
However, I had to move past that, because in writing, what I realized was my words, my experiences, my, what I put in the book, if one person is able to connect with it in some sort of way, then I might be able to help others. And so I talk about bulldozing your fear, because what I did was I put a purpose on the other side of it. So anytime I felt like, there's a fear of diving into your trauma and feeling the feelings again, of not having that control and not being able to come out of it, and so what I would do is just kind of tell myself, what, you're not only helping yourself, you're helping others. Yes. So you have to do this. You have to do this. And I just kept plowing through it, because I knew that, maybe someone who reads my book can connect with it, and I can help them in some sort of way.
Yes, and that's it. I can definitely relate to that when you were saying in the beginning how you had to, dive into it and tell your real truth. Because the book that I have wrote the first time, it took me 10 years to write it because I was like, I no, I'm not, because I was yet dealing with shame, yet dealing with, of course, like you said, what people will say, what people will think. Yep. Because a lot of the things that's in your book is actually dealing with the other people that's around you, and yep. you don't want them to feel like some kind of way, like, but I'm telling my truth. Like, your truth is your truth. This is mine. So,
yep, it is. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So then it's like I'm using my story, my testimony, my journey to help other people, because I feel like when we're on this earth and when we go through things, it's not just for us. It's right. for our neighbors, for our sister, right. our brother, or somebody from across the world. Yep. To hear it so they won't feel like they're by themselves, or they're able to give them encouragement that they can't come out on the other side. Yep. There's light on the other side of the tunnel.
Absolutely. So. I think part of it is that, we're all given things, mm-hmm. we're all given challenges and some horrible things that happen in our life. Right. And if we are able to move through it, I feel like it's almost like our duty mm-hmm. to teach others how we did it.
Yes.
How to do it.
Yes.
I find I laugh because I kind of call my book like, Cliff Notes.
Right.
Cliff Notes through trauma. Like it's, it just gives them the steps that I took, because my book is in 2 pieces. So the first part of my book is about the trauma mm-hmm. and what I went through. And the second part of my book is about how I got through it. And like so it shows you the path that I took.
I like that.
And so, I was really humbled by how well and how my book was received. And when I hear people tell me, thank you for writing this book, it just reminds me that this is bigger than myself.
It is.
And that I am on the right path. Like, I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That is my purpose.
Right. So, and I can see that when you were talking, or going through the page, and how you were talking about earlier, how you do speaking with the LAPD, and I'm sure it's probably more police departments that are, feeding off of what you brought, what you experienced. And so how is that experience going with you, like, when you're speaking to different police departments?
Well, that's funny you should say that, because I am speaking next Friday, actually.
Okay.
In San Diego. I am going to be speaking to the Los Angeles Police Protective League delegates.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell my story. My story is more about teaching people how to bulldoze through their fears, and mm-hmm. for goodness sakes, right now, like, that's a huge theme for right. upcoming police officers. So I think a lot of it, I have a lot of feelings
right.
that I will not be relaying. Yeah, I will be holding back some of my feelings when it comes to speaking. But I feel like it's the other side of this is that there's so many people that know this story, and
right.
there's still so many police officers that either they've grown up through it with their mm-hmm. parents being police officers and remembering the story, that there's still so much pain and mm-hmm. so much anger attached right. to my dad's case and in his murder, that I feel like if they see me and they see the resiliency side,
right,
then maybe they can heal themselves,
Yes, right.
And so I feel like that's a really important thing for them to be able to see for themselves.
It is. It definitely is, because if like you said, like if you see somebody and they're still standing, they're still smiling, they're still, pushing forward in the same journey that they're about to walk through or walking through, that helps them, give them the strength, the inner strength to deal with, to continue to keep going,
Right.
And I believe that's what your story truly is going to do, not just with your local police department, but I believe once your complete story goes out, I believe it's going to touch a whole lot of other people. And I'm going to allow my son to read your book so that he can know the full story, how, the things that, the law enforcement, deal with, and then listen to some of your the videos as well, because I don't want him just to go. I don't want him to go in and just think, "Oh, I'm just carrying a gun. I'm in authority. I can pull you over anytime I want to."
Yes.
No, there's a reality to this thing. There's not. This is not a game.
Yeah, there is a lot to it, and I feel like, I think I think for the most part, the mental part of it, you can't prepare yourself for that.
Right.
I feel like there's still not enough, and there's still a stigma around police officers that get help, that utilize mental health people. And that needs to end. It needs to change. And I feel like there needs to be more testing for, mental capacity and whatever, because, they do have a firearm on them. They do have a badge. It does give you authority in some point, but what they need to realize is that we pay their salary.
Right.
Right. And so, they're to serve and protect. That is what it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, I told you I have some feelings around this.
Yeah, I understand.
There are people out there, there are bad apples out there. And what sucks about that is that there are really great police officers too.
It is. It is.
And it's those police officers that are taking advantage of their authority.
Yes.
And forgetting that they are there to protect and to serve.
Yes.
And it doesn't give you the right to be a bully.
Right.
And on the other flip side of that is that because of that behavior, I feel like the public, there is no trust anymore.
You're right.
And I think police officers need to understand that. My other thing is that I feel like police officers who are serving should serve in their own communities.
Yes. Yes.
And I think when society allowed police officers to be police officers in areas where they are not familiar with that community, it causes issues.
It does.
So, like I said, I have a lot of feelings about this. I get a lot of negative, how dare you? You shouldn't be speaking like that, considering who you are, who your dad was. I can tell you, dad probably 100% backs me.
Right. I believe that.
Yeah. And, but it is hard. And I will tell you, talking to those retired officers, they all said the same thing. I don't think I could be a police officer right now. I don't think that I could be a part of law enforcement right now.
Right.
Because, there's so much to the job. There really is so much to the job. So,
and I watch crime shows. So, like, I watched the first 48. I mean, I know TV probably exaggerates a lot of things. and how they do certain stuff. But just looking at it, and it's like, you know what? I watch Cops. I watch all of them. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh
and
my,
Sean.
the good and the good and the bad. I'd be like, you ain't have to handle him like that. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have to do all that now.
I
But
know. Trust me,
so
I know.
yeah, I do. But it's like it's crazy. So yeah.
And I have to tread lightly.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, I think my job more than anything is to help others, through their journeys.
Mhm.
And my brother is on his right now, and he's doing great.
Awesome.
He is, and I'm so proud of him. I call him my Hercules because he's
Mhm.
just been through hell in his life since he was 6
Right.
years old. And you know, uh, he's amazing, and I'm so proud of him. But
That's great.
we have each other, and that's what's important. And
Yes.
he's so excited seeing me speak and my book, and he's come to my book signings. And you
That's
know
amazing.
he's just been really, really supportive of the whole thing. And I that was part of the reason I wrote the book too, is that in some sort of way I wanted to be the big sister. And
Yes.
and try to help him through his journey as well, or at least let him know that I am here for him. And
Right.
that he isn't one man on an island. We both.
Yeah, y'all
Yeah,
both got affected by it. Even though he was there,
yeah,
y'all both yet was affected by it.
yeah,
So
absolutely. And he recognizes that all of the attention was on him
mhm.
forever. And but at the same time, I just explained to him that I'm past that, and I am who I am. And writing the book has changed my life in so many different ways,
Right.
um, for the good. And
Right. Mhm.
I know who I am,
Right.
and
You know who your dad was
I
too,
know who my
so that's
dad was. I know
yeah.
where I came from,
Right.
and I also understand that, I understand because of everything that I've gone through. And, doing all the work that I did and continuing, because just because I wrote a
Right.
book doesn't mean I'm done
That stopped there.
evolving.
Yes. Yes.
But, the work that I still continue to do on myself, I also understand, like, what's important in a relationships, and,
Mhm.
what I deserve. And I have more respect for myself, and for the first time in my life, I feel stronger in my self-worth. So, it's taken me 54 years, but I'm
Hey, listen, long as
really
I mean, it's the journey that's well worth it because again, like I said, when you look around your neighborhood, you look at the people that you have affected in a good way. You see, like, you know what, this was well worth it. Yeah, I went through hell. Yeah,
Yep,
went through this. I can see the benefit of it all. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, and I
Um,
talk about, my purpose was in my dad's death,
mhm.
and his purpose was in my dad's death. And some people look at me like I'm green with pink polka dots when I say that, because they think, "Oh my gosh, how could you even say
Right,
something like that?" But
right,
you gotta understand that, like, I have no control over what happened. It happened.
you're right.
And, um, and it's what I took from it, and it's the lessons that I took from it,
Hmm.
and the journey that I took from it. And so, and it continues to evolve. Um, I just feel grateful every single day. And I don't think I would, um, I, I really, I don't have any regrets.
Right.
I really
Hmm.
feel like I had to go through all the things I had to go through in my life to get
Hmm.
to this point.
Yes.
So,
Yes, and that's good. That's definitely good for others to hear that what you go through is for your good, and it don't look like it at the moment.
No.
But it is for your good. And again, they might look at you green with pink polka dots, but guess what? Your dad's story is still going, for the good. It's not, looked upon as just another cop dying. No. Right. We finna shine some light on what's really going on, what truly goes on, in the police officer's mind and in their family's lives, as, these things are going on. So I commend you on you keep going, doing what you're doing and building up your brother as well.
Thank you.
Because, as you do this, he's going to be able to, and he's going to, spread his story as well.
Yep.
And spread awareness and the good things, bad things, ugly things, and the indifferent things as well.
Yeah.
Not just by, this story, but many other stories that you all, encounter as well.
Absolutely.
So I definitely commend you on that. And I really, really enjoyed the story. And again, like I said, I'm going to go. Where can they find your book? So I can find your book as well.
So my book is on Amazon.
Okay.
It's either in Kindle form or it's paperback form.
Okay, and what's the name of the book?
It's called The Other Side of the Gun, My Journey from Trauma to Resiliency.
I love it. I love the title. Love the title.
Thank you.
So you found it on Amazon, and how can they also reach you? Just via Facebook, right?
Yeah, I am on Facebook. You can find me just with my name, Susan Snow. I do have a website. It's susansnowspeaks.com. And you can message me through there as well.
Okay, sounds good. I would definitely be in touch.
All right.
I'll definitely be in touch. But I wanted to thank you for joining me in this conversation and also bringing awareness to, the things that, police officers and law enforcement and just the judicial system and as a whole, goes through. And I believe that, again, like I said, it's going to help so many more people as you continue doing what you're doing. So again, continue doing that, and hopefully this won't be the last time we talk and connect, whether on or off the podcast, because stories like that and things like that I would love to continue.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
All right, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a good rest of your evening and be safe this holiday weekend.
I will too, and you as well.
All right, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Let's Be Real 100%, where we're 100% real about life. We hope that you enjoyed the topic today, and we hope that you trust God more and more each day. And we hope to see you next week.